Do it. So, I am June Waters. I'm the Director of Exhibitions here at the Arts Project. And our talk tonight focuses on the entire exhibition, the Utopia Machine, screen prints by Nathan Meltz, who is the artist here with us. I'm just going to begin a little bit, a little introduction. Nathan studied at the University of Wisconsin-Madison for his BS and MA degrees and has his MFA from the University at Albany. He's currently a senior lecturer at RPI and has a record of exhibitions, talks, lectures, publications that is too long to even begin to cipher through, but I did pick up on a few things. That multiple international exhibitions, as you had mentioned before, Nathan. Italy, Finland, Scotland. What's the most exotic place? Because I just sort of skimmed those.
Sure. I think the favorite was the Museum of Modern Art in Rio de Janeiro, mostly because we got a grant so my wife and I could go, and we made it a wonderful vacation.
Ah, that does sound great. And some of the shows that I have gone through, some of the names jumped out at me of the shows. The one at the Tang, which is listed as a performance, and is that performed by you or other people?
It was performed by me. It's a songwriting performance I do with some collaborators. It's sort of yeah, it's just very much a musical performance that I did as an outdoor concert series at the Tang.
Oh, that's right. You are also a musician. And what I loved about it was the piece, The Machine That Wouldn't Die, the name. And I do think that name is kind of compatible with some of the things we see here in this exhibition. But I realize now it's quite different as music. And then there was another series called Strangling the Fascist Viper. Now, I don't want to go on about things we're not going to be looking at, but was that screen prints?
That was a printmaking series that responded to 1940s anti-fascist graphics and re-envisioning anti-fascist graphics through a lens of technology.
Okay, thank you for that. And Joanne, you can, of course, Nathan has a website, and that is nathanmeltz.org.
NathanMeltz.com.
.com. Okay.
I put it in
So,
the
okay. So if you'd like to follow through with some other things that are not in this exhibition, I'm sure you can find them there. So I'd like to read just the second part of your artist statement, which is, my current body of work investigates technology's role in utopian movements. One branch of research involves fantastical narratives of animals, plants, and fungi seeking to escape Earth for a more sustainable climate. The other involves representations of the mythical Jew golem, the original automaton summoned by magic to protect against oppression. Both branches seek to answer the question as to whether our technologies have made for better worlds or worse. So let's go. Let's go into the, unless you'd like to add to that before we're looking, Nathan.
No, that sounds great. Let's see some images.
Let's look at the show. And I'm going to have to go here. And here. Now, okay, start. Where'd everybody go? I'm gonna have to go back to screen sharing.
Yeah, it isn't set up yet.
There we go. Okay. There we are. And I will say that I did not plan this automation. And if at the risk of making you all motion sickness, I'll jump ahead to the entrance to the gallery. And if you have been here, this is what you saw coming in that night. Please try to visit again when you have full range of the imagery and the installation. So the Utopia Machine. And let's start with one of the earlier works in the exhibition, 2021. Elon, take me with you. Where are you and Elon going?
Sure. So this is part of the group of works that are all about imagining plants, animals, and fungi trying to escape the earth because of climate change to a better place. But I decided to have one sort of silly piece imagining more humanoid robots trying to hold on like a life raft onto a giant asteroid made out of Tesla cars. So this is sort of a cheeky response, but also has some of the same similar imagery we're going to see in the subsequent images. This is a screen print combination of hand collage, digital processes, and then other handmade processes that go into the screen print process.
And I do enjoy seeing these worker bee robots repeated throughout some of your screen prints. They seem very, very hard at work.
So
Human.
yeah, so all of my imagery, it's I make up a cast of characters of little humanoids and animals that tell out these stories where they're all made out of machine parts, as you'll see as we go along. The machines being metaphors for different sorts of technologies.
Mhm. And you said they are clinging. I thought they were pushing. I thought they were.
No, they're like holding on for dear life.
Oh, okay. I thought they were pushing the Teslas up into space, but now I see the about your interpretation. And so moving along to the next piece from 2021, which is not moving along. And I'm not sure why that is. There we go. Uh,
Yeah,
space. Did I skip one? Yes.
you,
Yes.
yeah, here we
Okay.
go.
Yes.
Yeah, so Noah's Ark has sort of the same cast of robot animals this time trying to escape into space. And it's obviously very silly at times. We have robot chicken in a sort of space helmet and a pig in the middle panel on a sort of a spaceship and cows with breathing apparatuses in the sort of like celestial background. This is again a combination of digital and hand collage and screen print on Yupo paper, which is a polypropylene paper, which is just I'm using for technical reason because printing this big paper tends to want to warp, so it helps control the paper a little bit in the process. So this is very much the animals trying to escape our Earth to find a better place in all of its comedy and psychedelicness.
Yeah, but it does have that message to it. And I've been a little curious about the mirror image of Cleveland up in the center panel. Are they fleeing Cleveland? Or
Yeah, that so again, this is all hand collaged from imagery that's taken from industrial trade magazines. So there's different little mechanical dynamos and motors. So that's like some motor that I just collaged out. I gave it a reversal to be a little bit more obfuscated, but sometimes you'll find those little things. Sometimes you'll see in my work this bit of collage that, oh, I actually know what this does. Like this is part of it. This maybe is a Dremel that's been turned into the arm of a robot. So those are little Easter eggs you'll find in the work if you're kind of know how machines work.
I had created a why is it doing this? Uh, I had created a little verbal scavenger hunt for people. The kids who came the other day to work from your work, and also adults in general, to help people look a little deeper. And people have been having a good time with that because there's the 3-second rule. Just look and keep walking. So I'm trying to put people more in it. So here we have.
Yeah, well, and speaking of rules, I tend to try to have with this work, what I call a 10-10 rule, where hopefully from 10 feet away, it will have that iconic, harsh contrast. It will want you to take a look and get your attention, but hopefully from 10 inches, there'll be another world of small details. For instance, in this work, space pods, which is the plants trying to escape into space through their seedlings in this sort of like speckled space background. The background is made through a process of cyanotypes. This is one of two cyanotype works within the show, which is, if you're not familiar with cyanotype, is an early photographic process most used as for creating architectural blueprints in the pre-digital age. Done on this Sakishu paper, which is Japanese mulberry paper, and then layers of screen print on top to give this sort of depth of sort of trying to give sort of a deep space into, again, it's sort of comical, but also, I'm trying to have it, make it expressive at the same time.
And the cyanotype is such a beautiful, deep blue.
Yeah, the cyanotype's always a recipe for, making something look just to have a great visual appeal. So, we'll see this in another work a little bit later.
Keep going. And here we
Um, yeah, so here's spore cannon. So this is the idea of the fungi trying to escape into outer space. Through a literal cannon. So I have my little robot workers each having a little container of what I try to envision as spores. And again, there's a lot of handmade work in here. So if you're into printmaking, getting this kind of background texture of deep space, it takes a lot of work. Screen printing is an inherently flat process that then requires layering to create a sense of depth and overlapping colors to create a new color. Like, so for instance, the green that's on the earth, I didn't print with any green ink. All of it was most of this was printed with process colors, cyan, yellow, and magenta, just with different levels of transparency. So all the greens are just made through overlapping of yellow and blues to create the green. Also, again, printed on Yupo paper. And this is the one image or the one print in the work that I did not print all by myself. I printed this as a visiting artist at the University of Utah, where they brought me in as a printer to work with their graduate students. So there's many hands involved. And this was printed on a large auto press, which is a large, as an automated press where you have to like be careful so your hands don't get chopped off when the screen comes down to print.
And this one, I found it interesting that, at first you're looking at this and you think the cannon's on Earth, but there's Earth.
Yeah,
So
it's somewhere else. The moon, perhaps, or so. Yeah, it's definitely
almost like
it's somewhere else, pointed
almost like
away
a
from Earth,
satellite or something that needs to
perhaps.
be yeah, I could go on with content, but and this piece,
Yeah,
uh,
so
too.
Vessel was envisioning just the vehicles that might take some of these, climate refugees out into space. This was created at part of a residency at the Atelier Presse-Papier in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. I got that residency as part of an award. So some similar imagery, similar sort of color layering. I'm particularly happy with like kind of the rays that are shooting out because it's a particularly difficult sort of print process we call split fountain pull, where to create a gradient between that yellow and sort of that orange. And this is a little more mysterious. It's a little less like heavy-handed of like, here's animals, here's plants, here's fungi. It's like these, what exactly are these for? There's a little more mystery and maybe a little more ambiguity allowed for this piece.
Yes, I feel it's a bit concerning because it appears to me like those beams might be scooping us all up.
Yeah, maybe they're scanning people and tractor beaming them out in space. And I
Yeah.
should say, Jen, so the reason some of these are triptychs is, screen printing is a stencil method, and size is definitely a limitation. So this is a very big piece, but it's oftentimes when printmaking, maybe you're very familiar with printmaking, it's helpful to break the image up into several different sheets.
Yes, Joanne, if you have any questions while we're
Please,
moving
yeah.
along, ask anytime. Do you have any questions at this point? Joanne, are you muted?
Maybe she's cooking,
We'll move along.
as I do when I watch a lot of my
No,
Zooms.
no, I'm just gonna type in the chat.
Okay. Oh, I see
So
it. Yeah.
that, so that you can keep talking, but I will tell you, this is so interesting that you're explaining it because it really helps me to understand and appreciate it so much more.
Well, thank you.
It's really
Okay.
good. So
Well,
don't let me
I'm-
stop you. Keep going.
All right, and I opened the chat box, so if you have any questions, please feel free to just type it in. So this is Noah's Ark 2, extension of that other Noah's Ark triptych with all the animals escaping into space, and I wanted to explore the whale a little bit further. Maybe also, Judy and I were talking about this, the idea of the whale being its own vessel. And then kind of like traveling through again some of this deep space, although it doesn't look exactly like space, and then plunging into this sea of just broken, they're pretty much like late 80s, early 90s computers. I think I based those little computer drawings off of an Amiga computer, which is that early 90s, late 80s Apple construct. Little fun fact with this, the computers were actually printed with a type of ink that had a puff binder additive added to it. So it's a sort of, so this is the same technology you can print t-shirts with. And you can get a puff binder that'll make like a puffy paint on your t-shirt. So I've done a little of this in the past where I've printed with a puff binder. In fact, I think in my office here, right behind me, there's this big digital print of a robot with a big sledgehammer hitting some bayonets. There's a bunch. Some of the imagery is printed with puff binder in that. So I tried it with this print right here, and then I puffed it. So basically, you hit it with it. You print it when it's dry. You hit it with a heat gun, and elements of the ink will elevate. It just didn't look that good. The ink lightened up too much in its value, and the image didn't work. So I left the rest of the edition unpuffed, you could say. So it's sort of, this is very much like a cousin work to the other Noah's Ark. Sometimes you have an idea and you want to riff on it a little bit more and explore it visually and see if any new ideas come up, if there's maybe new ways to express a particular idea. That's what's kind of going on here.
Thank you for that. And let's move. Oh,
Okay, so now we kind of transition away from the climate exodus, utopia, trying to find the better world through space travel, which again, it's very critical of the idea that we could actually find a utopia in space, to re-envisioning or envisioning the idea of the Jewish golem, which of course is like 16th century Rabbi Lowe, uses some Jewish sorcery, writes down the name of God on a piece of paper and slips it into the like a construct of clay. The golem comes to life and protects the Jews in Prague from persecution. And so I wanted to envision the golem and ask, like, what would it do now? But at first I had to start with just envision it. Like, let's make a visual representation. So I did a lot of studying about prior representations of the golem through different media, and as well as some sonic work and some instrumental scores. And I decided to create this kind of monstrous form. And it's actually a tessellation where this is actually made up of about 80 little puzzle pieces that fit together like a puzzle. So it all breaks down into one pile of prints that then you can just tile together, and it can build and be very modular. So thus it can, wrap around the walls, and I have it kind of go in and out of the window and interact with the architecture, which I thought was a really fun way to approach the courthouse gallery, because it's got its fun little architectural peculiarities. So I don't know, do you have a detail of this,
yes,
June?
yes, I do.
And we can
I don't have a detail
oh.
of
Oh, that's fine. So this is a detail I took. So here you can see like each of these little, again, it's like a little humanoid, but it kind of has a tail, a little figure that are interlocking to make this giant image. So kind of the idea of, the golem is made up of this composite of all this different clay. I'm making it as a composite of all these different paper forms, also kind of referencing my robot machine technology language.
I wanted to go back here because you know how they say when you're in a gallery with portraits, the eyes follow you. Oh, well, he he has a lot of eye-like things that do tend to follow.
Yeah, definitely. Each little character is sort of a cyclopean figure.
And each little character is kind of I think almost like a lizardy kind of guy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely sort of an animal humanoid hybrid.
yeah, okay. So moving on to
So
Golem Soup.
yet another envisioning the golem, what it would look like, and thinking about the golem as the original robot. It's an automaton, even though it's made out of clay and sorcery and language to a certain extent. I'm imagining it, as a robot and then made out of circuitry. So the background, we have the cyanotype again, which gives it this really painterly background, intentionally letting it drip. Some people make these cyanotypes and they apply this chemical like perfectly even. And of course, I'm slopping it on because I want to have it look like a painterly approach. And then the red detailing of the circuitry is actually red clay. So I got powdered because I want to start incorporating like, well, let's actually use clay for the golem and have the materials have some meaning. So I'm mixing red clay in with, oh, if you want to go back.
Sorry.
Red clay in with a particular acrylic binder, but it's still, the clay is so fine. And screen printing is just, it's a stencil you put on a mesh. So you can push anything through the mesh as long as the particulate is small enough, and red clay was small enough. So this is actually printed clay on a two-dimensional surface, which then, of course, I know Jen's for the next image got me thinking, well, all right, I'm talking about a character that's an animated character of clay. I've printed with clay. Why don't I make a golem out of clay? So I started collaborating with a ceramicist. And just, I have a background. Before I was a college professor, I was an elementary school teacher. And so my knowledge of clay is about that of a fifth grader. I can do elementary school projects. So I knew I needed to collaborate with a pro. So there's a great ceramicist in Troy named Ross Coons, who kind of like refreshed me on how to roll out some decent slabs. And after a few starts and fails, because clay is very, I can masterfully print with printmaking. I feel confident about that. And I'm a just utmost amateur with clay. And I have the utmost respect for someone like this man, Ross Coons, who's a master ceramicist and production potter. And he talked me through how to, roll out the slabs. And then I printed that same golem image that we saw, the paper golem with the interlocking tessellation is printed on the clay with underglaze. Because you can print underglaze with screen print. In fact, that's how they usually will print images on clay. And then so I printed all these slabs and then went through the firing process and a glazing process. So we have a detail image of this, June? Do you have another image?
Don't.
Okay, so John, if you're really interested, if you go on my website, nathanmeltz.com, I think I have a third image where you can see just that printed character a little more clearly. But it's the same image that we see on the wall installation. So trying to kind of bring everything in the gallery full circle a little bit, and to literally make it out of clay. And I was kind of waiting. It all fired fairly well when it went into the kiln. But my backup plan is if it was going to blow up in the kiln, I was just going to smash the whole thing and have like broken up clay image, which could still happen. And they're here it's installed, and June was very helpful. I think we did a nice job installing it on that nice, like slightly raised pedestal.
And it's so impactful when you walk into the gallery, because this is the most human looking golem. Well,
Yeah,
one with the red clay is too kind of emerging out of the darkness.
yeah,
But
this definitely looks like a body on the gallery floor, which is very much the intent.
yeah. And
And then here's I think the culmination, and this is where the kind of the work is going, is in the work of the Golem Smashes All Walls, where I envision, the original Golem was basically standing up for the oppressed. And so I want to start asking the question, what would the Golem do now? Who would he stand up for? Who would he try to protect? So in this image, I have the Golem destroying a border wall. And you can interpret that how you want. Could it be the border wall between United States and Mexico, or Israel and Palestine, or any other sort of like nation state wall that perhaps is a sign of oppression? So this is an idea I want to start exploring more, is, what would the Golem be doing now? I've kind of envisioned the Golem, and now I want to start working through some narratives of its behavior, and using it to tell more of a further story. So in a way, the Golem segment of the Utopia Machine is kind of just getting started, and is kind of a project I want to work on a little more in the future. And I have some specifics in mind that I think I kind of have in mind for some projects moving forward.
Oh,
So that is the show in a nutshell. And of course, things look totally different in real life. But that's a little walkthrough of what you can see in the Utopia Machine.
and I'd certainly like to follow along with the development of the golem topic. Um, and the combination here in this Utopia Machine, it's interesting to put the idea of protection of the oppressed with the idea of fleeing an oppressive planet, or a planet we have oppressed, kind of putting and again, I have asked that question too about them. What are they protecting now? Protecting the oppressed, protecting the earth. I can think of a lot of things that need protection.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Whether it's patriarchy or statehood or statecraft or colonialism, or reproductive rights, there's a whole spectrum of, injustices that I would imagine the Golem might be same. Okay, so Joanne asked, could you please explain again the origins of the Golem? So, according to Jewish lore, in the 16th century in Prague, and what was at that time, Czechoslovakia, or maybe it's just or it would have been Bohemia. Jews, of course, were being oppressed by probably Catholics, or basically Gentiles, in the pogroms. And there's the story that within this temple, a Jewish temple in Prague, the Rabbi Low, who is sort of supposedly a master of Jewish mysticism, and this is all sort of tied up in mythology, basically creates a humanoid type figure out of clay, and starts trying to create on a slip of paper the word of God. And he actually uses a bunch of different linguistic combinations before he can come up with that actual name. Writes on a piece of paper, slips it into the mouth of this clay figure, and then the figure comes to life. And then the figure, this golem, is active except for on Saturday, when of course it's the Jewish day of rest, and goes and basically protects the Jewish people of Prague from persecution, and then has to rest on Saturdays. And on Saturday, Rabbi Low takes the piece of paper out of the golem's mouth, and he kind of becomes just inert clay again. And then part of the story is that there's some Saturday where the Rabbi Low forgets to take the paper out. The golem comes back to life and kind of becomes like an Incredible Hulk character, and just causes just chaos. And so it becomes sort of a proto Frankenstein story. And then the Rabbi Low is able to, restrain him enough, takes the paper out, and the golem turns back into clay, and he's no longer used. This temple, and I have it written down some notes somewhere, is actually a real place in Prague. I have not been to, but you can visit it. I don't know if you can go inside it, but there's a real place. So some of this is based off of, reality, and some of it is probably not, because it involves magic, but depends on your beliefs in magic. So that's what I know based on my research of the Jewish golem.
And it's such a fascinating piece of folklore, and also Jewish history, and if I needed protecting, I would want this golem to be there for me and my population.
Join us. Is there a golem in the book, The Lord of the Rings? That is Gollum, spelt very similarly, but very different characters.
Yes.
But a good
Yeah,
question.
I have, that I have been asked that too, but thankfully I have your description. I mean, I knew what a golem was, and I was pronouncing it incorrectly because I was pronouncing it like it is in The Lord of the Rings, which is Gollum.
Yeah, was Tolkien influenced? Obviously Tolkien was a history of European history. So
yeah, and in the movies, Gollum is interpreted almost like this clayish figure, So there has to be some, intellectual playing around there.
quite possible.
Yes. So thank you, Nathan. This was just great. I had so much fun with the little boy who I sent you the picture of, who came through the exhibition and built his own uh built his, built his own robot, but he did listen carefully to the story of the golem. So I have to think he was impressed, because his robot was definitely something that could be protecting him. Anyway, I will stop the share now. And first of all, any other questions or comments, Joanne?
Well, that was very inspiring, and thank you for your explanation. I appreciate you showing up, Joanne. And if you get a chance, I'm sure if you come by now, there'll probably be no one in the gallery, or at least it won't be so packed.
People, but yeah, it's definitely more private time in the gallery.
Oh.
And the more the
No,
work.
that was really good. I understand so much more now. And I'm really happy that you cleared up about Golem and Gollum, because that's what I was thinking when that was there, but I did not know that from Jewish history. So that's really good. And I was appreciative that you told me that there was that one work that was actually a collage. I love collages. So are you Jewish then?
I've come from a family of half Jew and half Catholic, all together.
Okay. So it's really funny. I had a good friend, but he has since passed away. He was an artist and he was Jewish. If he were alive, I would love to discuss your works with him, but he isn't. And you would know him because everybody knows him. He was Arnold Skolnick.
I don't know that name.
Yes, you may not know the name, but you know him. He did the Woodstock poster.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
That was a collage, but he also did all kinds of incredible art. And he's so angry because that's how everybody knew him. And he really wanted to be known for other things, photography, all kinds of painting. But he was an incredible storyteller. And it would have been so interesting to discuss all this with him. But he passed away a couple of years ago. Yes, he was in his 80s, and he was quite the character.
Well, I'm quite familiar with the Woodstock poster, and I'm curious. I'll have to look him up and see if he did.
Oh, you should.
I have quite a lot of design and print work, so.
Yeah, I don't know if he did any printing, other than, of course, they printed his poster.
Yeah.
He told me that poster took him 15 minutes to create, and it was a joke for him. I don't know, it was some little teeny side job that he just threw together, and he's so upset because that's what he's remembered for. Well, he also did, he did movies. He did the opening scenes to the movie To Kill a Mockingbird. He did a lot of things in publishing. He worked with Ralph Nader, and he's the one who coined the phrase, "This car is a lemon." So he was, yeah, because he grew up in New York City. And then I met him because my main home is in the Berkshires. And he was my client for many years. And I didn't know his name either. And then one day he broke down and told me who he was. So affectionately thereafter, I called him Uncle Arnie. He was just the most incredible man. he was the most fabulous storyteller. So,
Wow.
but that
Thanks so
would
much
have
for
been so
sharing.
much fun to discuss that with him. He was very, very philosophical, and he had a great sense of humor. So I see that in your work too. It's too bad the two of you never met. You
I
would have had
agree.
a great time together. But thank you for that. To me, I always am so much happier when I share the artist insight of what they're trying to say in their piece, and it makes it far more meaningful for me. And it was wonderful to do that. Really, really good. So
Well,
I'll let you go. Thank you for that. And yes, I will do my best to try and make it back there and see your pieces, because now I'm really curious to see them up close
And please
and
bring
personal.
friends, because then you can share some of what you learned this
Oh
evening.
yeah. Oh, it was
give your
really
own
good.
tour.
I would never have gotten the whole concept of Golem. Never. So that was really helpful. But anyway, have a great evening, and thank you for doing that tonight.
Oh, I'm glad.
Thank you
I'm
for
very
attending.
much glad I could do it. Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Uh, so I have to share with you that I too am half Jewish and half Episcopalian.
Ah.
Go, share something in common.
Episcopalians have a little less guilt than the Catholics, but
Yeah, it's Catholic light. Not none of the guilt.
so hey, June, I forget, and I was going to email you, but I can just say, but when's the deinstall?
Oh, I was going to email you about that too. That's up to you.
Okay.
After
Well, when do you need the show? When's the next show come up? Like, when do you want my work?
next show is installing on March 15th.
Okay.
So got two and a
So,
half weeks, 3 weeks to decide when you want to take
okay.
it.
Yeah, I imagine like that the first week of March is my spring break, and I can't go anywhere because my kid's going to be in school. So that'll be a really easy and good time for me to come up to pick up the work, if that works
Okay.
for you. You know, taking everything down. The paper piece takes like, I think the whole thing will take me about an hour to deinstall. So,
Yeah, just let me know the date and time.
okay.
I often, well, oh, well, never mind. Any day and time is fine. And if
I'm
I
putting
turn
my,
up with a conflict, I'll certainly let you know.
all right. All right. Any other housekeeping?
No, that was the only thing that remained to ask you. So that was a sweet little half hour.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's fun. Yeah.
actually one of the best ones I've heard. So I will create it. I'll create the cutout, our before and afters. But it was certainly really great, and I'm glad Joanne.
Yeah, glad somebody got something out of it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure she will share all this. She seemed very excited by it. So
Hopefully with friends that are still alive.
I know that was a good story.
I know. I'm sure that sounds like an awesome person. I'm sure I would get along with. So,
And she said it only took him 15 minutes. Well, some huge cultural icons are just mistakes. They're not that that was a mistake. It was truly inspired, but you never know what's gonna
what's
get
going to
caught
stick?
in the cultural landscape. So
All right, Jen, I should probably let you go and start answering. I'm getting texts from my lab monitor who's doing like the nighttime lab over at the screen print studio. So hopefully
well,
nothing's broken.
never ends. So
All right, thanks for doing this.
all right, talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.